I'm Iris Mays. I'm with University of Idaho Extension in Latah County, and my program is Small Farms and Horticulture. And this session is for the week 3 of the You and I Together series, and we're going to talk about garden design. This is a list of all the different program types that University of Idaho Extension brings to our communities all over Idaho. Pretty incredible. Okay, and then I'm going to click on this next one, and I think there's a little bit of a movie.
University of Idaho Extension is keeping Idaho's citizens and communities healthy by helping people of all ages improve their health and build important life skills. From nutrition education, diabetes management, and food safety to family finance education, UI Extension is helping build healthy and thriving Idahoans.
Neat. Okay, so a little bit about me. I have a degree from University of Idaho in landscape architecture, and so that'll be, I'll be using some of that background in today's presentation. Right now, I have 2 main programs, one in small farms and one in horticulture. So I have a Master Gardener program here that you've probably seen in your communities, and I see some Master Gardeners on today. So I just want to dive right in, and I hope that you have at your fingertips some paper and a pencil and maybe some crayons or colored pencils. So the first thing you want to do is just take a piece of paper, and I did this ahead so I could show you. It just takes, you know, maybe half a minute. I'd like you to put 9 rectangles on one sheet of paper. And so you're just going to tip it to the side and just draw your 9 rectangles. So go ahead and do that. I'll wait. I'm not sure how I can tell. It's like in a classroom, I'll see when I see people's faces again. So I'm expecting to see the top of your head while you're doing the activity. Not everyone has their camera on, so that's okay. Okay, so once you have your 9 rectangles, we'll go to the next slide. I'd like you to put a square inside each of those rectangles. Okay, that should be even quicker. All right, then what we're going to do is we're going to play around inside each of these forms. So we're going to do some drawing in between the little square and the outside square. So in this space in the middle is where we're going to draw. So on this one, I just put circles inside. So I'd like you to go ahead and draw some circles. You can draw them. These are all a similar size. You can draw some big ones and then fill in like with bubbles. So you're just going to draw bubbles inside that square. It's almost like you're making your own coloring sheet. You can color this later if you want. We'll color some of it in a minute. Okay. So once you have all those bubbles, we're going to go to the next one, and I'd like you just to do a grid. We're going to just try out some different forms here. So draw a grid. This would be almost like the rule of thirds in design, if you know design theory, but all you need to do is just draw like a tic-tac-toe box over the top of that one. And that should be pretty quick. And then we're going to stick with some squares and just be thinking about squares for another moment. And on the next one, I'd like you to draw another grid, but you're going to you can cut it into 4, or you can do another type of grid, drawing a line through the middle. You can draw it into 4 quadrants if you want. Just divide it up like a square pie, one way or another. Okay. On the next one, I want you to do some squiggles. So draw some squiggles along the edge, some squiggles across, just in that space between those 2 boxes. You're going to draw squiggles. So if I could draw on my computer screen with a pencil, that's what I would do. But I drew it ahead because I didn't want to get crayon or pencil on my screen. Just kidding. I think there is a whiteboard function here, but anyway. Okay, so is everyone caught up? Can I see some thumbs up? Am I going too fast, too slow? Okay, we'll go to the next one. This one, I want you to do another kind of squiggle. So do a squiggle all the way around like this. So you're just doing curves. And then inside of that, do another curve. In one place, make the curve parallel. In another place, make it non-parallel. So if we have some little ones and we haven't talked about what parallel is yet, these two lines here are parallel, they go together. And then this one over here bubbles out. It's not parallel. It makes its own shape. So do that one. In the next box, just draw some diagonal lines across. And I'm leaving that middle opening blank. So then we're going to do, now on this one, you can do whatever you want in this one, but mix some of these forms that you've already made. So take some circles, put some circles. I did a squiggly line kind of close to the center box. And then I did some diagonal lines that are going the other direction on this one. Okay, so now we've practiced some different forms. We've done circles, squares, diagonal lines, which could be like your triangle. You can also use triangles in any of these, and squiggle lines. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to alter our thinking, and we're going to start looking at this as a map. We're going to look at it from the top. So now that you've seen all these, I want you to think of this as the outline of the property where you live, the piece of property, and this is the building that you live in. So your house or apartment building or whatever it may be. And so, so this is starting to think about how this is a map, a bird's eye view from the top down. So now in this one, I'm combining some of those forms, and in landscape architecture, when we draw a tree and we draw the trunk, we give it a little plus sign in the middle, and that's where the center of the trunk goes. So if you were working like with a construction company, that's where they would put the tree on your map. That would be the center of the tree. So in this one, I'm drawing, now I'm starting to use these forms to make a little landscape. I would like, this is my house here, this square here. And so I would like to have a curvy path that goes up to the front door. It doesn't have to be precise at this point. We're still just sketching. We're sketching ideas. This here is the driveway, and I would like to have a garage. So I'm drawing a garage here on the side of the house. I'm going to put a tree here in the front yard. I want a pathway to be able to go around to the backyard on this side. And some of these forms we've done have been curvy and some have been straight. And so this one is just to notice that along the side of the house here, if we're looking at the top, we could just put a row of shrubs. And that's like a really common landscaping technique. You can put a row of trees or shrubs along fence lines. They can be straight or they can be in a curve pattern. So I'll show you some more examples of that. In the backyard, I'd like to have a couple raised beds so I can grow vegetables right here. And this is going to be a sunny area, so I need that sun. And then I just would like a little patio. I know this is just a teeny tiny sketch, but I'm just imagining what I could have. And then sometimes when people are trying to decide how they might lay out a curvilinear bed, you could take a garden hose. So you can kind of imagine you could lay out the garden hose right here. I'll do a laser pointer. I hope you guys are seeing my arrow, but I'm laying out the garden hose here, and then everything that's inside here will be lawn, and then the outside, this will be my flower beds along here. Okay, so that's just one option. And then for the next one, you guys can draw whatever you want. You could take a new piece of paper and kind of imagine your own using some of these different forms, and you know, kind of breaking up the space. So you're just dealing with one part at a time. And so like maybe I haven't addressed this issue or area here along the driveway or along the garage. So then I would deal with that next. Okay.
So
and then,
Iris, for
yes.
a quick second, we realized we didn't launch the poll.
Okay.
So I'm going to launch that really fast.
Okay.
If everyone could take just a quick second and fill this out, that way we can figure out who's in our audience. So if you could mark how many adults are attending today, where you are located, how many youth. And
Do I need to stop sharing?
nope, you're fine just like that.
Sorry, I
Also-
need a slide for the poll.
No, I launched the poll, you're golden.
Okay.
And then if you've participated with us before in other extension classes, or if you've participated with us and you and I together. I'll give another 15 or so seconds. Most of you have answered. The poll should be up on the screen. If you, hopefully everyone can see it. If for some reason you weren't able to access the poll, let me know and we can send you those questions individually. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Sorry to interrupt you, Iris. We will continue on.
Okay, so I was looking back through the comments. Do I need to review anything? Did I go too fast? Is it speed okay? Speed okay. Okay, I see. Thank you, Sunday. It's nice to see you and your little ones. Okay, so do I share the poll or can I close the window? Amy?
Yeah, you can close it. It is showing up on your screen.
Okay. All right, so you guys can still see my screen? Okay. All right, so that was just a little thumbnail sketch of a landscape. So what we're doing is we're translating these forms into plants. So I'll go to the next one. Okay, so actually this is that same one, and I started to use some crayons. So I just grabbed a few different crayons from the 4-H program next door. And I'm using green to represent grass. So I'm still making a map from the top down. I'm coloring my map. I like the trees that have red fall color. So I used a red crayon for this tree that might be like a maple tree. I'm thinking this might be pink roses along the house or something like that, a flowering plant that would be pink. And I didn't draw any bubbles, but I'm thinking I would like pink flowers over here. And then pink flowers along these areas here. So I just used pink, and then I used a brown crayon to represent a fence. I think this garden would be nice if it had a fence. So the walkway could be gravel. It could be a concrete walkway, just like a sidewalk. And to get to around the house, so I used a gray pencil just to color that in. So just kind of simple colors symbolizing those features that you might want in your landscape. Okay, and then now we're going to focus on this one. I'm using my bubbles, and so I'm going to put 3 bubbles in these open areas, actually 4 bubbles. So I'm just putting in some bubbles, some forms, just to play around with what could go there. And then I'm taking my red crayon and I'm like drawing around the circles and kind of making a curved path. And this, in this drawing, this is going to be a carport. And I still need a driveway to get to it. I'm just going to have a straight sidewalk to the front of the house. So this is still my house here. And then I think in this back corner of the property, I'd like a big evergreen tree so that in the winter there's some green tree. When everything else is dead, I'm going to have a pine tree back here. So it will look, it will give me winter interest. That's what we call it in landscape architecture. And so maybe that's not exactly that kidney shape right there, but I'm just using those bubbles to kind of break up the space. I thought this one kind of would be nice if there was a little pond back here. So maybe I would put in a pond or some water feature like that. And then now I'm kind of starting to make it look a little bit more like a landscape plan. So I'm taking my house, I'm putting in some measurements, and so I'm going to start to do things a little bit possibly to scale. Here's my big evergreen tree. That's going to be pretty big. It's almost as big as the house. And that front circle over here, I decided maybe I would like a little bit more of a kidney shape. So I'm just sketching that over the top of that circle. I'm drawing those little plus signs again to represent the center of trees or plants. And then I have a brick walkway. I'd like a brick walkway up to the front of the house. Maybe I'm going to cluster some flower pots to make it seem kind of warm and friendly by the front door. So I'm using those forms that we did on our little worksheet and turning those into kind of a garden plan. Here's my little pond. And then I went online to see like, well, what would I like this flower bed to look like here? Maybe I want to just do a Google image search for flower beds and look at some different flowers and see how I could mix different colors, textures, and heights. So when you're looking at everything from the plan view, everything looks flat. But maybe you have a little bit of a hillside. And so then you want to keep that soil on there by putting in some plants. So these are just some of the kind of things that you would be thinking about as you're drawing your garden. So we're just starting with simple forms and then trying to start translating that into plants. On the next one, I kind of want to zoom in on this bed here and start to think about what would that look like from the side. So here's my brick walkway. Here's the house. Simple sketch. Here's my flower pots by the front door. There's a little couple steps behind those flower pots. And then here's a person who's like, this is the vantage point. This person's taking a picture of that beautiful fall color. And so this back row here, these plus signs, these are going to be the taller trees, maybe like a small tree or a large shrub. And those will be in the back of the bed. And then in the front, I would have these shorter plants and maybe again, something that could be pink and flowering, and those ones would be in the front. And so, you know, the reason that I'm using like the pencil and the crayon is just to help you realize like you don't have to have any fancy art skills or fancy programs. You can design things just yourself with some paper. And for people who have not gone to college yet, then you can think about going into landscape architecture. Okay, so if you do get stuck with like, what can I do with that back area? I've got a big back lawn. You know, what can I do besides growing vegetables? So you can start to look at these forms again to help you break up the space and do some placemaking. And then another thing that I recommend is for people to think of making an outdoor room. And so you're thinking about what the floor is going to be, what surfaces you're going to use. If you can get some walls. In that first photo that I showed, a big rose arbor, using long lines of trees or long lines of shrubs can be very pleasing to the eye. It kind of gives us that rest. It's not as chaotic as some of the forms that I'm showing on the screen here. And then I thought we could talk a little bit about plant texture. So this is a speeding through here because we've just got a few minutes. So this is a ponderosa pine with those long pine needles, interesting textures, really nice, like I said, in the winter to be able to see that green, that deep green. Contrasted to the rest of the white and gray that we have in our winter. This is an oregano plant. And so just thinking about texture, this one has kind of a smaller, rounder, softer texture than the pokey pine. And then this is a Swiss chard plant with some large leaves. And so when you're thinking about plants, you want to think about what those leaf shapes are, what that texture looks like, and then what the plant looks like overall. You're going to be backing up and kind of looking at what is that plant doing in the landscape visually. And so this would be all sort of, well, summertime views, I guess. And so then you want to start to think about what these plants are going to look like in each season. So we're looking at lavender. It's gorgeous. It smells amazing in the summer, but in the winter, you know, it's going to look pretty dead. And sometimes, just depending on which kind of lavender you have, some lavender may die out altogether, but some may keep living. It's just going to be a little more dusty and gray. And so maybe you want to put it in a spot that is, you know, just less prominent for winter time versus summertime. So those are some things to think about. Another example would be, this is a Rosa rugosa. I forgot to get the title on here. This is a native Idaho rose, at least up in the north. And so it's going to have rose hips in the winter, and that can be quite beautiful and feed the birds. You can collect that and make your own rose hip tea, which is high in vitamin C. And then when you're backing up and looking at that whole overall mass, this is what it could look like. If it gets big enough, you can trim it down and keep it short. but just another example of thinking through the seasons with the plant choices that you're making. Here's the red osier dogwood. And so I think I saw Jim Eakins on here. He and I have this as a favorite plant. We did a publication on using some native plants that don't take a lot of water, which is nice if you are short on water. And so you can just really see the huge difference between summertime with these white blooms and then the wintertime with these red twigs that can also be just really add a lot of winter interest. Okay, so those were my 3 plant examples. You can kind of start to take your own photos or look around, do Google image search for plants that you like. I think one of the things that I've noticed in helping people do landscaping is they have to think about what plants they can get in their area. And so, you know, I've given like just 3 simple examples, but what you can do is when you have that landscape plan, then let's see, that's the last slide. Let me go back just one more, sorry, to the plan, the little plan that we were working on with the crayons. Okay. So like in this one, if I just said, well, I want some plants that are going to be about 10 feet tall and they're going to have a fall color. I'd like 1 evergreen in here so that when everything dies out, there's still some evergreen, or maybe 2 or 3. Sometimes landscape contractors like to do things in 3s because it's kind of pleasing, makes a triangle shape. But so you might go to your local nursery or, you know, wherever you can get plants, your local hardware store, and tell them kind of what your intentions are, what you would like. I'd like a big evergreen tree. And then they can help you with what they have available. Or, you know, like in Moscow, we have lots of garden clubs who do all sorts of plant sales in the spring. So if you want to come to Moscow, you can get lots of plants. You just want to make sure that it will work for your zone. So, yep. So those are my garden design tips. And I will go to the last slide. And then if you have any questions, you can ask me any questions.